All right, so some of you may already know that Riot is working on an MMO. That was released or info was released about it like 2 years ago maybe. Obviously they have the world building skills with League of Legends, you have Valorant that they're trying to do that with now too, Arcane, like they have such a rich world. I'm super hyped about this game whenever it comes out. I don't think anybody other than Riot knows where this game is in development. I'm not too confident that it's going to be released anytime soon, but you never know. This video's title is The World of Riot's MMO is already done. Let's see what it's about.
In the past, MMOs were regarded as the godfathers of games. They were the peak of what developers could accomplish. Even though, looking back, that's a fairly subjective thing to say.
Is he not wearing any
Everyone
shoes?
knew MMOs had the power to create cult following, but also everyone knew making MMOs was hard. On
True.
average, an MMO has to spend at least 6 years in the baking before it can get anywhere near being good. But that didn't stop companies from jumping onto the bandwagon anyway. And soon we could see dozens of new MMOs, all releasing in 2008.
Nice.
All being called the WoW killers. Spoiler alert, none of them did that. And unfortunately, we can feel the ripple effects even now. It got to a point where every time a new MMO is announced, we all think the same thing. Oh. Anyway, when you're working on an MMO, you have to respect 3 pillars. Gameplay is king, social interactions matter, and the world setting is important. When Riot announced their MMO, it became clear that 2 of the pillars are being respected, and the third one is already done. A dev can guide players towards social interactions, or they can annihilate them. And after that, the players usually find their own fun inside the MMO. From that point on, the devs should do everything in their power to support the players having fun in their own way. And finally, when it comes to the world of an MMO, in Riot's case, it's done. And it's been finished for quite a few years now.
Is this the map?
In fact, the world of Riot's MMO
is
in
my
such
recreation.
a good state. They already have
the
the
official map,
the zones, the cultures, and the races. And to a lesser degree,
from Legends of
every zone
Runeterra.
already has its own storyline. Now, of course, unless you follow the lore of League of Legends, you wouldn't know about this. And that's why I decided to make this video. I want to show you all the zones we are going to see in the MMO and what sorts of quests we are going to do there. So,
how does he know the
quests? For this video, I will assume you have no idea what League of Legends is about. You have no idea what the universe is about, but you like MMOs, your hairline is receding, and you have a crippling fear of Nintendo 64 controllers. To which, I might add, why do you think I'm wearing hats? But now, without further ado,
he's wearing slippers.
Let's have a look at all the zones in Riot's MMO. Right now, the world is separated into 10 main regions. But these 10 regions don't cover all the land on the map, so there are some mini-zones in between them. And the lore already revealed that there is gonna be another continent further to the east. That definitely sounds like a future expansion to me. In fact, it would be foolish to release all of these regions at launch. You can easily turn half of these into separate expansions. And because a lot of people already know and love these regions, the hype behind these expansions would be big. With that said, I know a lot of you would like to play as Shurimans or Ionians. And now you may be cursing me for suggesting that these would be expansions. But the lore can justify giving you these nations as playable races without having their regions. First, let's talk about the regions Riot's MMO has to start with. The Northern Continent. This entire continent is called Valoran. Not Valorant, Valorant. And this is where the absolute core of this world is. The 2 main regions here are Demacia and Noxus. They are the 2 big rivals equivalent to the Horde and the Alliance. While I would like to say that Demacia is your classic normie human region, it's not really true. Runeterra doesn't really have a normal place. There is something cool happening in every region.
Oh, he even
and
has little
Demacia
sub-zones, like little
has racism.
towns.
Okay, maybe not racism, because Demacia doesn't mind Yordles or Minotaurs, but they really hate mages. That's because in the past, their rivals almost annihilated half of the world using magic. And so, Demacia was built inside a magic-absorbing forest. Therefore, Demacia is a really cool place where you can hide from magic. When it comes to the visuals of the zone, you can see a lot of lush fields, it is surrounded by mountains, but the iconic part of Demacia are the buildings. They are made of petricite, which is a combination of stone and the magic-absorbing wood. Because these ancient magic-absorbing trees were grey, all the buildings have a marble-like appearance. And yes, given what material they are using, all the buildings in Demacia also absorb magic. So should a mage visit this region, let's just say it's gonna be a painful experience. On top of this, let's not forget that Demacians can weaponize petricite.
I don't know about nerfing like a certain class or a certain player's ability based on the zones they visit. I feel like that's a little... I'm not sure about that one. I see what he means, but that would just become annoying.
You see, the Demacians are so afraid of magic, they founded the Mage Seeker Order. This is an order of people who hunt mages, they throw them into prison, and they torture them until their body gives up on magic. So yes, being a mage is a crime in Demacia. The thing is, people still get naturally born with magical abilities. You can't stop it from happening. So not only are there mages hiding in the royal court, right now there is a mage civil war happening in Demacia, where mages and people who don't hate mages rise up to fight for moral rights. So should we do some quests in this zone, this is gonna be the core story. Mages trying to overthrow racist leadership following old laws. So the main enemy NPCs might be mages and witches. But I know what you're thinking now, and don't worry. There will be plenty of boars.
Or you could choose either.
Or at least there are loads of wolves here, as well as stags. And we can't forget the iconic Demacian raptors. But further to the south, we might find some crag beasts, tiny woolly elephants, and yes, of course in the Argent Mountains there are also dragons.
Nice.
Loads and loads of dragons.
Everyone loves dragons.
But that's about it for Demacia. So now, let's move away from the normie region and let's have a look at the badass region, Noxus. If you're planning on playing a warrior with oversized weapons and overcompensating lush hair, this is the region for you. Originally, it was built by the most badass warrior in the history of Runeterra. This motherfucker literally died on a mountain of corpses. And after he died, he was too angry to stay dead, so he just became the god of the underworld. When this guy lived, he built the Immortal Bastion. And currently, he is banished underneath the Immortal Bastion, but only a few people know about it. So, you know, that's a future raid boss. Anyway, the Immortal Bastion is the capital city of the Noxian Empire, with Noxus being one of the most brutal nations in Runeterra. It is brutal because the nation is surrounded by rocky earth. It is hard to grow plants here. So Noxians are forced into conquering surrounding land for resources to survive. That's why when you go to the map you can notice that the Noxian territory is all over the place. It's because these are all the places Noxus has already conquered. Inside the Immortal Bastion there is a cult known as the Black Rose. This cult is connected to the darkest of magics. So be ready to fight Hemomancers, witches, demons, and the Grey Legion, which is an army of soldiers revived with blood magic to fight for the Empire again.
Do we really need to fight them? Like, surely, you know, if you're going the WoW route where you can either be Alliance or Horde, like surely you could pick a side. That'd be cool. I don't know what way Riot's gonna do this, because I feel like there's already so much lore, so much depth to their world that like what direction they're actually going to go in terms of telling a story through gameplay like that, like races and stuff. I don't know. Maybe they'll have like 5 or 6 different options that you can pick from, and you start off in a starting zone, you know, that's relevant to them, to that race, and then I guess it really depends on where they choose to take it.
Now, while Noxus and Demacia are the main rivals here, both of them are also constantly repelling raids from the north. So now, let's have a look at the Freljord. Just like pretty much any region on Runeterra, Freljord has a long history. But for the purpose of this video, just know that the maddening old gods known as the Watchers of the Void, who want to devour the entire reality only because it keeps waking them up, once tried to breach into reality here. They almost succeeded because they tricked the Ice Witch Lysandra into helping them, Fortunately, she realized how wrong she was, and she managed to freeze half of the kingdom with the Watchers still beneath them. So these days, the Ice Witch is the only person holding back the end of reality by keeping the Watchers frozen. So at some point in the future, you bet one of these woken up frozen Watchers is gonna be a raid boss. Now, when it comes to the NPCs,
That would be
this
awesome
is where
too.
things get diverse. So the first enemy here would be the wildlife. From Rhymefangs to Yetis to Druvasks to Elnuks to Mammoths to the worst of them all, Poros. Next
Aw.
we are going to fight the Freljordians themselves.
Olaf.
There are three main tribes here. The Avarosans, who are quite peaceful, the Winter's Claw, who are quite brutal, and the Frostguard, Lysandra's followers who hold back the
They
Watchers.
look so
And let me
scary.
tell you, these guys have some badass armor. Among the notable tribes there are also the Ursine, which are shamans who worship the Volibear,
Volley.
the primal god of the wild who slowly turns his worshippers into twisted animalistic monstrosities. Speaking of which, yes, there are also the primal gods of Freljord. And finally, we need to talk about the Iceborn. When the Watchers tried to arrive here, they tainted the ice around them. This special ice is called the True Ice. And it is so dangerous, you literally die if you touch it. But there are also some animals that were twisted by the Watchers.
Dude, like
and Lysandra is
look at like the depth already. You know what I mean? Like how many, the variety of stuff. I'm only in like two or three regions. You already have like so much complexity with characters, backstories, everything, man. Like there is so much that they can develop with this. I think they're going to nail it with the world. I think they're going to have probably a great story, like a narrative with the game too. But I think the gameplay might not suit everybody. I don't know what direction they'll go. Like they could go, you know, a Lost Ark route and go isometric. They could do anything. Personally, I would really love this world to be, or this game in this world to be, you know, a third person action RPG. I really feel like that's like the kind of the premier route that they could go, and they have all the resources to do that.
So overall, Freljord is gonna have a lot of cool warriors, shamans, and horrors. But this place is actually so big it can easily make the base world of the game.
It'll be interesting to see the progression. First off, you need to know like where you're going to start. You know, do you pick a race and then you start in a certain starting zone, like you start in Demacia or wherever, and then the progression into different zones. That's what I'm really curious about, the actual game design of the thing. I know that they have a really great world. Obviously, they're going to have a really great world because some of the people working on their teams are insanely good. I mean, just look at some of the abilities in League, the descriptions of abilities. It's like paragraphs of stuff with backstory and the ability. And I'm just like, dude, I just want to know what the thing does when I press the button. Like, I don't want to know why the sun fell and gave this character this ability. You know what I mean? I don't care. I just want to know what it does. But that tells you like they have that those people just thinking of these things. We're only halfway through the video and you can already see how much depth there is. But I'm more interested right now. I'm more interested right now in, you know, what actually is the game going to be? What the leveling system is, like classes, how the combat systems are. This video makes it seem like it's a lot more about just a overview of the lore in the world so far.
But from here, you can cleverly set up the expansions because of how well everything is interconnected. So now, let's have a look at the continent to the east called Ionia.
Personally, I don't think they should have just one, on release at least, I don't think they should have just one continent. I always love when MMOs and MMO developers go out of their way to include like different, you know, like water-based content. You know, you have ships or some sort of travel system that allows you to go somewhere across like a you know, a body of water or something like that. More of like an expansive world than just like one big continent of land that you just travel to and from across. Maybe you fly across it or whatever. Like this guy wants to talk about expansions a lot with different zones, and I can see that being a thing eventually. Obviously, you're not going to include everything in your world on day one. I think that's a bad strategy, but They should include isolated continents and stuff and have systems traversing water content and stuff like that. If they have that on release, it instantly makes me more excited to play the game, more immersed, more motivated to get to that place because I want to discover the systems of how to get there and stuff. So I really think like it should be more on release. It should not just be like, oh, we're adding another zone and expansion. Oh, we're adding this zone on expansion.
Ionia has a very close connection to Noxus. You can only guess why. It's because Noxians once tried to conquer it all during an event simply called the Invasion of Ionia. This was a horrible war full of using children as soldiers because Noxians thought Ionians wouldn't fight back against children. And chemical weapons. Lots and lots of chemical weapons. Speaking of which, remember Singed from Arcane?
Yeah.
He's the guy who chemically devastated Ionia. Eventually, Noxus failed, but they kept their small controlled territories. So the first quest
that might be where the
could
chemtech stuff is, maybe.
Sailing over and exploring the place for the Noxian Empire. Now, when it comes to Ionia itself, the place gets mystical. Everything here is alive and connected to the spirit of nature. And I mean everything.
This zone would be
awesome
too.
To the people to the buildings. Everything is alive. So if you anger Mother Nature, your house can twist and strangle you in your sleep. So you can only imagine how Mother Nature fought against Noxians. Usually a river came alive to drown them. That's why all the buildings here look like they were woven from wood.
Reminds me of Lord of the Rings. Outside of Rivendell, that would be cool. That would be a cool feature if they could do something like that.
It's because they were. With nature magic, people let nature build their houses. It also means that sometimes your house can just walk away. From giant flying tigers to the never-ending story. But be ready to also face local Ionians, Blade Masters, Shadow Cultists, Murderers, and Ninjas. Both good, bad, and the in-between. But finally, there is also one more enemy that we could face. The Furries. That's right, this race is known as the Vastaya. They are half humans and half magical animals. And yes, canonically, the species was born in exactly the way you are thinking.
Do you think they're gonna include the champions, like by name in this game? I don't know if they will or not. Because the way Arcane did it, obviously you have, Jinx, you have Vi, Victor, stuff like that. But I feel like maybe now and then you'll run into one on like a main story quest or something, where everybody can be like, oh look, it's so-and-so. It's Ari, but I don't think they're gonna like pit you against them all the time or anything like that, or have them around all the time. I think for like raid bosses and stuff, you could have like Mordekaiser be a raid boss, stuff like that, where you have like a rare appearance would be awesome. But I think they're gonna want this to like coexist in its own right, rather than just have champions scattered left, right, and center.
But to be fair, the Vastaya are quite cool and they are definitely gonna be a playable race. Just like Yordles, who also like Ionia a lot. Lastly, after Noxians ravaged Mother Nature, demons started occupying all the places filled with misery and doubt. So that's gonna be a nice bonus enemy. So yes, the exploration of Ionia and the raid on the Shadow Order could be a really cool first expansion. But it's definitely not Riot's only option, because we can also go south to Piltover and Zaun. These are the ones people will know about, simply because this is where Arcane took place. Piltover and Zaun are two massive cities located one above the other. And they are so massive they could easily be turned into their own playable zones. They are both focusing on futuristic technology powered up by magic of the Hextech gemstones. Using this magic, they can power up anything from guns to augmented limbs to vehicles.
Dude, this just makes me so excited. Just how much how much variety of depth they have in this. It's insane. Like, oh my god. Like how much stuff you can come up with in terms of a world, an explorable world. I really hope they nail this.
Visually, it is simply futuristic Victorian era. And unfortunately, there wouldn't be much of enemy variety. We would likely fight the rich houses of Piltover and their deadly assassins, with the occasional thief on the streets, corrupt wardens, and the occasional rogue steam golem. But things get a bit more interesting in the undercity known as Zaun. Zaun is the dirty underbelly covered in thick toxic smoke. Because the majority of people are poor here, they developed a cheaper alternative to Hextech called Chemtech. This artificial green stuff can power up cheaper limb replacements,
this is
well
where
as highly
Chemtech comes
unstable
from.
weaponry. Zaun is also controlled
I guess
by
that
the
makes
Gem
sense.
Barons, which are obviously gonna be the main enemy here. But on the side, we may also meet some chemical mutants, unstable
Please
constructs,
not Mundo.
as well as some mass murderers and people who hunt down mass murderers. And funnily enough, at the
Urgot would be a
very
cool
bottom
boss.
of Zaun itself, there are the hidden ruins of an ancient city full of traps. That is obviously gonna be a cool dungeon. So yes,
True.
there's not much more that I can add here. From here, we can travel further south to Shurima. Shurima used to be a massive empire that ruled the world. But after the emperor got betrayed by his
look at
best
the
friend,
skill.
the entire empire collapsed. This region is a massive desert with the occasional city near a river. In the center of the region there is the Sun Disk, a colossal piece of star metal that has the power to reflect celestial magic. The Shurimans use this celestial magic to turn their best soldiers into the Ascended. After the Emperor had died, the Ascended started fighting for leadership. And slowly, after learning how to use blood magic to gain the edge, they morphed their own bodies and became the Darkin. Twisted, blood-frenzied monsters that would certainly make really cool raid bosses. Besides this ancient evil, Shurima is also full of its own animals, raiders, dune scavengers, and on top of all of that, void creatures. That's because
So
to the
sick.
south there used to be a kingdom known as Ikathia that wanted to destroy the Shuriman Empire. So, they asked the Watchers for help. You can imagine how that went. The Watchers sent through
Holy
some void
shit.
beasts that consumed Ikathia and polluted Shurima
I can't even
to
tell
this
where
day.
its face
To fight
is.
back the void, Shurima does have a lot of hidden tombs around with hidden god warrior weapons. Not to mention that Shurima also has a circle of time mages who are trying to freeze the void in time.
Oh, is this from the what was the cinematic with Irelia? I think it was this area. It would have been this area, right?
Now, as I mentioned near the beginning of the video, even if Shurima becomes an expansion, they can still easily make Shurimans a playable race because they are already connected to Noxus. As you can see, of course, Noxians already conquered part of Shurima. So some Shurimans are fighting for Noxus. Again, that's why Riot can easily turn only the northern continent into the base world. Anyway, going west from Shurima, we
I disagree.
arrive at Mount Targon.
I don't think they should do
This
that.
place is incredibly unique. First of all, this mountain is not natural. It was literally pulled up from the ground by celestial gods. And that's because this place serves as a portal to the celestial realm, also known as Targon Prime.
That's an expansion zone, in my opinion.
Now, because this mountain was pulled up, it also has some unique features. For example, you may find frozen lakes frozen horizontally on the mountain. And the very peak of the mountain is special too. Should a mortal reach the peak despite the brutal climate and the deadly wildlife, either they die from exhaustion, or the celestial gods deem them worthy and they become an ascended aspect. There is aspect of war, aspect of the sun, aspect of the moon, aspect of the twilight, aspect of the guardian, and so on. Simply said, after people reach the peak, they become some of the strongest beings on the entire planet. And I speculate this is where we could get a lot of cool armor sets. There are the Solari, who are
True.
devoted to the aspect of the sun. Then there are their rivals, the Lunari,
Like some
who are
epic
devoted
gear
to the
drops or
aspect
something.
of the moon. But also, the tribe I assume will become a playable class, the Warriors of Rakor. Of course, besides just humans, Targon also has all sorts of furry Vastaya. Near the bottom of the mountain, you may notice that the mountain is alive. But also there are Stellarcorns, a variety of mind-bending creatures, and loads of dragons. Speaking of which, remember that this place is linked to the Celestial Realm. So this is where we may also meet the star-forging celestial dragon Aurelian Soul. as well as all sorts of other celestial beings.
So these are
A
all
lot
going to
of
be
these
raid
would
bosses.
make for interesting bosses.
True.
In fact, the ascension of Mount Targon would be a really cool raid. Next, on the other side of Shurima, there is Ixtal. This is a special place where people are mastering the elemental magic. They are using it for everything: fishing, smithing, walking, and this place is definitely gonna be saved for an expansion.
Well, I'm thinking about this, right? You look at this map. Do you know what I personally hate when developers release a map and you know that there's like they've done it in a way where, you know, you have like some kind of shadow of war or just some sort of barrier that shows you that yes, there's a zone behind this, but we haven't completed it yet, right? It's not developed yet. You know, you're just kind of blocked off from it. But it's like connected in terms of landmass. It just feels like you've released an incomplete thing. I don't know how you release any one of these zones, Targon, Shurima, Ixtal, especially because we have the knowledge of it. Now it's already, you know, it's already a map. It's already exists as lore in the game. So I don't know why they would individually be all expansions. Maybe like this entire southern continent here would be an expansion in itself. I just don't really like the idea of, you know, cutting off half of your world and saying, yeah, we'll release it as an expansion.
Basically, remember when Ixtal asked the Watchers for help? And then that happened? Ixtal was their neighbor, and after they saw the Void devour an entire kingdom, they believed the Void would soon devour the entire world. So, using their elemental magic, Ixtal built massive walls of plants around their entire region, isolating themselves from the rest of the world. For 3,500 years, Ixtal stayed isolated, believing that the world outside of their walls was devoured by the Void. But now, very recently, some mages found out that the world outside is completely fine. So now, the Ixtali mages are slowly revealing themselves.
I guess it depends. This all is predicated on how they're, you know, at what point do they choose to begin the MMO story? At what point do they, you know, in the lore, in the story of this world, do they throw you, the player, into? I feel like there's too many assumptions being made, like this is going to be an expansion. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows that. This could be a starter zone for some people. Again, I don't think anybody knows, you know, where they're going to go with the game, like where they're going to go with races, where they're going to go with classes or factions or whatever. I don't even know what they're going to, if they're going to do any of that. Who knows?
To be honest, Ixtal is the most underdeveloped region in Runeterra. We know the region has a lot of hunting Vastaya, deadly plants and some elemental dragons, but most of the region is still a mystery to us. So at least here, Riot will have the freedom to try something new. To visit the last two regions. First of all, there is Bilgewater. If you like pirate adventures, this is gonna be your place. This is where we are going to explore inns and gambling dens, even some local temples worshipping the god of motion,
I hope they keep.
Here we are going to fight pirates and sea monsters, sea witches, sea Vastaya.
This would be so awesome on
maybe some
release.
Demons. And possibly we'll side with Sarah Fortune to fight the king of the pirates, Gangplank.
I hope
There's
stuff
a
like
lot
this is
more
is
here.
day one.
Last
You know,
year, Riot released their RPG, which was set in Bilgewater. So not only can we already explore this place in detail, but it even has a monster journal. And
I wonder
at
if they'll
quick
keep it the
glance, we can
same.
already see some really cool bosses too. However, this place is also linked to the last place I want to show you today, the Shadow Isles. See, every year the
This
horrors
could be
of
an
the
expansion.
Shadow Isles lurk out, and Bilgewater just happens to be the closest place. So every year, Bilgewater is fighting the undead. Once upon a time, the Shadow Isles used to be the Blessed Isles, a rich place full of advanced magic. Long story short, there was a young asshole king who wanted to revive his dead queen. And in the process, he accidentally released dark necromantic magic. This magic
As you
destroyed
do.
the island and made it home for undeath. In the lore, this event is called the Ruination, and there they have anything you can imagine. Undead horrors creeping everywhere. And
This would
should
be
we ever
awesome.
venture into these islands? I have no idea whom we're going to fight. The ruined king who caused all of this is banished elsewhere. Thresh, who siphoned his magic after he was banished, also left the Isles. And even Hecarim, the most brutal soldier of them all, is currently around Demacia. So the Shadow Isles don't currently have a main baddie. So this is where Riot could push forward some of the side characters. Now, even though these have all been the regions that are currently set up on Runeterra, Riot has already confirmed that there is a new continent further to the east. Currently, it is planned to be revealed in the upcoming Ruination novel. And so far, we know that this new continent is where the ruined King Viego is from. And this is also where he was banished at the end of his story. But that's all I wanted to show you today. As someone who's been following the lore of League of Legends from the very beginning, I can tell you, I'm very confident the setting of Riot's MMO is gonna be great.
True.
Their incredible writers have been preparing the world for years now. And now, it's time to harvest the fruit. That's it for this video. See you in 6 to 8 years when the MMO gets released.
Classic. Okay, that was fun. That was good. I feel like they're gonna take a lot of these stories and steep a new story in that world, and you, the player, will come across a lot of the stories that, if you've been following the lore, you would know about, right? That's what I feel like their kind of plan is going to be for this game. But how they implement it across so many different places, so many different, you know, races and just people and creatures, like I don't know how that is going to play into the actual game design of this, but I am super excited for this game. I hope we can hear more about this game soon, like actual official stuff. Even just teaser stuff would be cool. I don't want too much though. I don't want them to go on a full PR, you know, spoil the entire thing. Here's a look at this zone. Here's a deep look at this place. And here's our mechanics and this. And I want to discover it day one. I want everybody to be so hyped about an MMO release that everybody is playing it on day one. There's no other feeling like an MMO on release day that everybody's hyped about. And everybody jumps in and you're discovering everything for the first time, and you walk into a city and it's a vista, and it's like, and you just have, and it's populated by so many people. There's nothing like that feeling on day one or the first week or whatever of a release. Let people discover. Let people's time go into the game and finding things out instead of being told them by IGN, right? It's probably still several years out at this point, so I'm just keeping my expectations, you know, grounded, I guess. This video is awesome because I've never really looked that much at the League lore per se, like all the different zones and where they're laid out and stuff. But again, it shows you how much detail, how much depth and variety Riot already has. Like, it's pretty insane where they could go with this. I think it has a massive amount of potential, and I hope they pull it off. So I'm just excited to hear more about it. But yeah. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new upload. Also, follow me on Twitch if you haven't yet. All the links are in the description below. Come say hi, hang out during streams. I hope to see some of you guys over there. Anyway, peace.